want to thank everybody for watching and listening. And before I forget, you can find us obviously on anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, all that. You can also find us on YouTube. Subscribe there, subscribe both places. The more likes we get, the more credibility we gain as a show and the better guests that we can get. But again, thank you for everyone listening and following along. And I know I say that every time I do a one-off show, but again, really appreciate it. And want to talk today about 3 things that I wish I knew before I got into real estate investing. And honestly, when I started thinking about it, it's probably it's related to levels as I go through my this journey as well too. So not only 3 things, at least part of it, was when before I started in real estate investing, but a lot of it applies to where I'm at now, what the next level looks like, what the next level after that looks like. So a lot of that is related. So let's get into it. So first off, I wish I would have known to have a better plan. My plan was, let's buy a single family rental, create some extra cash flow, and maybe that one single family rental will give us an extra, I don't know, $100,000, $150,000 in retirement. That was kind of my idea. Because at the time I was looking at my retirement account and it wasn't much. And I realized that I'm going to have to work till probably 70, 75 years old. And by the time I retire to that point with what I was on pace to get in my retirement account, I would have been living a less quality of life, less, I don't know how to say that, but a worse life basically when it comes to financially. So I knew I had to do something, and that something was real estate investing. And I bought a single family rental per year and had ended up with 4 of them. While I learned a lot, I didn't have a plan. I was, again, my only plan was, well, let's kind of stack these and see how much we can get in retirement. So I was using that as a savings vehicle, which isn't, it wasn't obviously not a bad thing, but as you go along, you kind of look back and you realize like, I didn't really have much of a plan. I was doing a lot of work myself, especially the first rental. Well, first 2 or 3, I was doing quite a bit of the rehabs myself. So not much of a plan. It was me, myself, and I, and I'd hire a few things out here and there, but not much of a plan, not a business. It was a hobby. So I wish I'd have known that. And to do that, I should have worked backwards. I should have looked at, even at the time, hey, I want to create a better retirement account. So what does that look like? I didn't think that much through. It was, okay, let's just buy one. And, eventually we're going to have equity and the renters are going to pay down the debt. So there wasn't a lot of planning there. It was more or less, kind of figuring things out as I went along, which, things work out for the most part. But if I would have had a plan and sat down and really looked at what the next year, 3, 5, 10 years, 30 years would look like, my plan probably would have been a lot better. I'd probably be a lot further along right now. And I probably would have been able to get on my 9-to-5 a lot faster. With that, when you're kind of looking backwards or working backwards at your plan, I probably should have looked at, all right, how much cash flow do I want per month? And I did this eventually, but not before I got into real estate investing. It was probably 4 or 5 years into it to where it was like, okay, now I want this much money. And at the time, I think it was, let's get $5,000 worth of passive income per month. And I started smaller than that. It was probably, let's start at 1,000. And with the 4 single family rentals that we had, we were basically at $1,000 passive per month. Now, side note, after probably 7 to 10 years, if I would have hung on to those single family rentals, my cash flow probably would have been wiped out from those 7 to 10 years, just because single family rentals have a bunch of, obviously, CapEx items that can go bad: roof, HVAC, plumbing. Anytime a tenant moves out, you've got painting, carpet, flooring, all that stuff that you've got to replace. So my cash flow probably would have been wiped out, but that's side note, not a big deal. Looking backwards, I should have, or planning ahead, I probably should have looked at how much time I was going to spend. I figured that out probably 4 or 5 years into it. And a lot of things I figured out probably 4 or 5 years into it. The first 4-ish years, I was just kind of throwing things against the wall. Let's pick up a rental here and there. I was learning how to underwrite, was learning how to kind of put some type of systems in place. So I was learning as I was going along, but I wasn't preparing for the future the way I should have been. And then even then I was looking at, wasn't looking to scale it as fast and as big as I probably should have been from, maybe year 2 or year 3 in. Took a little while to get there. It was probably 5 or 6 years into where I was like, all right, I need to find a commercial asset class. And I looked at a lot of them, and I've talked about it on the show. I looked at small businesses, franchises, car washes, and eventually fell upon self-storage. But it took a little while to get there, which isn't, that's not a bad thing. But so the first thing is 3 things I wish I would have known before I got into real estate investing. First thing is, wish I would have had a better plan. Some people call it vision. Some people call it goals, blueprint, plan, whatever. I wish it was better than what I started with. Second thing is, I wish I would have known that I didn't have to use my own money. There's a reason why I only bought 1 single family rental, and I did a flip in there. So we'll call it 5 properties in 5 years. It's because I was saving the down payment for each one of those. Now I got, I guess, a little bit creative and started using a HELOC as well. But again, it's my own money, own equity. I did not go out to raise money, use hard money. I didn't do any of that. I kind of knew of it, but kind of put blinders on. Didn't think it was necessary. And to this day, I still don't use it. But if I found the right deal, I would absolutely use that tool in the toolbox and try to raise money. But yeah, I did not know that at the time. So that is something that if you're getting into it, whether it's real estate investing, buying a business, whatever it is, a software company, whatever it is, you can raise money. You don't have to use your own money. In fact, the biggest companies in the world, they're not using their own money. Pros and cons of both. Maybe at some point we'll do a show on that. Third thing is getting around others that are doing it. Okay, I was, for the first 5 or 6 years of my real estate investing career, I was a lone wolf. I went to, maybe we'll call it, 2 real estate investing meetups, which isn't much. I was listening to podcasts, which, was Bigger Pockets at the time and a couple others. That's not necessarily networking, right? I couldn't share my ideas. I couldn't share my problems, couldn't share my issues. I was only receiving information. And while that's helpful, I wasn't able to talk about my journey, what I was doing, the issues I was having. And I probably didn't know I had that many issues because, again, it was just me, and I was just in my own head and didn't have anybody to kind of say, hey, why don't you tweak this here, tweak that there? Why don't you go bigger? All those things. So I didn't get around others. That's been huge. That's been a huge mindset shift for me and continues to happen all around. So, and again, this is when I started the show, this is not only 3 things I wish I knew before getting into real estate investing. It's also 3 things, well, at least 2 things, planning and getting around others that are doing it, that I'm applying to every level that I continue to try to get to. So it's not only the beginning of the journey, but I don't think it changes. I think we need to continue to do these things. But going back to getting around others that are doing it, you're going to learn tactics, right? You're probably going to share, especially if it's people local, share contractors, vendors, insurance companies, all those types of those shareables, I guess. you can learn from their goals, right? I wasn't around. I was listening to podcasts and I could hear what other people were aspiring to be or what their goals were, but it wasn't real, right? Because it was almost like this pretend person that I was listening to. So I probably heard their goals, but didn't think it was that attainable because they weren't around me. The more high level people that I'm around, it makes things more, I guess, realistic in my head. It's like, if this guy can do it, I know I can do it, right? The same thing with, people listening to me or we're watching the video. If I can do it, you absolutely can do it. It's not that difficult. And then maybe to go along with that, it's the energy from people. There are definitely people that are just high energy people that I've been around in these higher level groups that definitely motivate me, right? And we stay in touch, and some of them have been guest speakers that I've attended, these mastermind groups and events and conferences that just their energy rubs off, right? And you can get a little bit of that through YouTube and podcasts, but nothing like being in person with them, especially in a small group, and then, creating a relationship with them, friendship with them, right? So to me, that's been a huge game changer in the past, we'll call it 5 years, is, just being around the people, getting their energy, getting their vibes. And that's really what helps motivate me. So again, 3 things that I wish I knew before getting into real estate investing. A couple of them I'd continue to apply to get to the next levels of my journey. But it's have a plan, right? And that plan is ever evolving. Okay. You're not going to have just one plan. And it's going to be this plan, and that's going to be the plan that it is forever. Maybe you do that, but you're not evolving. And things will probably pass you by. So I have a plan. Number 2 is you don't have to use your own money. You can raise money. You can get creative, hard money. There's a lot of different options to use other people's money. And then get around others that are doing it. Networking, masterminding other groups. Virtual is great, but in person is so much better. And those of you that are kind of sticking to virtual or just sticking to podcasts and books, get around people that are doing it. It's their energy. It's creating those relationships. You got to get around people. I know COVID kind of wrecked things and slowed things down, but that's when I got into this, was 2020. My first true in-person mastermind was in 2020. And it's completely changed my life. So those are the 3 things. Again, appreciate everyone listening. Please subscribe, share podcasts, and the videos on YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel. And again, appreciate you guys for listening. See you next time.
Thanks for following, subscribing, and listening to this episode of the Do More podcast hosted by John Farling. To learn more or ask questions, go to l4investing.com.